Hi YouTube, this is VidHead85 coming at you with the history of Proposition 8. Proposition 8 was and is a constitutional amendment that added California to California's constitution. Only a marriage between a man and a woman shall be recognized in the state. 14 little words that took away so much for gay and lesbian couples in California. So in order to give you a history of Proposition 8, we have to scoot back to 2000 with Proposition 22, aka the Knight Initiative, which I believe was a family value fucktard coalition guy who proposed this amendment. In 2000, California voters, when we elected George W. Bush into the White House, California voters added a statute to the Family Code Law, I believe 30875, the section of California law that dealt with family matters, for lack of a better term. So in 2000, the California voters said 62 to 38%, which was a similar margin that the North Carolina amendment passed by, that they voted in favor of this amendment. So from 2000 to about 2004, there was hardly any movement as far as rumblings in the news regarding the marriage between gay and lesbian couples. Domestic partnerships had made significant strides at this time, of course, but there was no real movement as far as, you know, at least the right wing up in arms about all of that, as far as I know. Come 2004, we re-elect George W. Bush back into the White House, and enter Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom says that when he went to see George W. Bush speak about America, the State of the Union address in 2004, that he heard that it was more of a divided nation that Mr. Bush, President Bush, former President Bush II, spoke of at the time. And in that package included a federal amendment to say that marriage is between a man and a woman into the federal constitution, also adding a double ban to marriages between gay and lesbian couples wherever they resided. So he starts giving out marriage certificates even though they are not valid according to California state law. So after all of that after he starts giving them out, you know, the protesters with the signs come on in, and there is a massive scene at I believe it was San Francisco. He was mayor of San Francisco at the time. He's now lieutenant governor in Cali now. So they go up there, and later on, the marriage certificates are voided. So then what do? They file a lawsuit. There's a lawsuit filed, and that goes all the way to the California Supreme Court, which was decided in May of 2008 after Proposition 8 qualified for the ballot. So let's double back to before the in remarriages cases. There were 16 cases that were making their way to from the lower level court to the appeals court, which upheld the ban, and then the California State Supreme Court. In the middle of all of this, the Mormon Church got together and said, listen, we need to build a coalition. We need to build a coalition where we're not seen. It's kind of like a film noir kind of thing. Like, they're going to act behind the scenes, but they're going to put another organization in the limelight, aka NAM, who was brought in by someone who was in between both parties, so that it could maintain the appearance of concerned citizens. This is what happened in Massachusetts, and it could happen in California if Proposition 8 isn't passed. And of course, activist judges force this on the people. The will of the people. The will of the people is not for, quote, gay marriage. I just call it marriage anyway, because civil contract between two persons is a marriage. So, while the court case was being worked up and was being wound through the court system, as we all know, it's notoriously long for that, they said, you know what, we need a constitutional amendment in California. California could very well pass. In order to pass something in California, you need money. Mormon Church had a lot of it, and their role in Proposition 8 has been documented like crazy. If you haven't seen 8 the Mormon Proposition, you have to see it. It will piss you off, I will say that, but it's something that you need to see. But it doesn't only go into Proposition 8, but it goes into the Mormon background a little more than this here will do. Again, 8 the Mormon Proposition. So now, while that's being worked out, they're collecting signatures. Proposition 8 qualifies. Proposition 22, however, is struck down in the middle of that. And since Proposition 8 has not been decided, now they have to gear up for another fight for Proposition 8. Now, remember when I said Proposition 22 passed 62% with 62% of the vote? In, what is it, 8 years, the margin of passage was stripped from about 24 points down to 4. So it closed 20 points in 8 years. This is kind of why I'm not shocked at the North Carolina outcome of their amendment, because usually the first time they tend to vote, it passes overwhelmingly. But as the reality of the harm that it does to LGBT families, and as it becomes concrete, then more people, it goes from such a wide gap to a narrow gap. But the fact that they're still passing is disturbing. However, they're passing by smaller margins than they have been before. So Proposition 8 gets challenged in 2009. There's a 13-day court trial in January. August 4, 2010, retired Judge Vaughn R. Walker. Amazing ruling. Perry versus Schwarzenegger at the time, as Schwarzenegger was the head of the executive branch, the governorship in California. Now it's called Perry versus Hollingsworth, but I'll get into that later. Perry versus Schwarzenegger declared unconstitutional, and therefore they stay it so that everybody can appeal. Then it goes to the Ninth Circuit Court in December of 2010. And the Ninth Circuit Court says, well, we're going to rule on the constitutionality of Proposition 8. However, what we have to do is, when the elected officials don't want to defend this ruling against, or when they don't want to defend a law against, period, in court, who has the ability to do that, which is called standing. Article 3 standing, Federal Rules of Civil Procedure. Section 3, Article 3, which is why they called it Article 3 standing in the proceedings. You have to prove harm. And that relied on Diamond versus Charles in the California Supreme Court. But the problem is it crossed with state law. Does the state of California give the proponents of a ballot measure the right to argue it in federal court? Arizona's for official English case out of the Supreme Court, they chided the Ninth Circuit because they did not ask the state if in fact they had standing. So therefore they said, you know what, we're going to certify this back to the California Supreme Court so they can make a decision. The California Supreme Court said yes, they have standing because this gives the people a chance to have a law defended who voted for it. The Ninth Circuit Court said, okay, we'll take this. They struck down Proposition 8 on February 14th of this year, 2012, stating that like Amendment 2 in Colorado, the Romer versus Evans case, it simply took away new rights because they were new. Now, that also would apply to Washington and Maryland also, should their referendums pass, which is very likely. So, right now, they petitioned for the en banc court hearing, the proponents of Prop 8, and they denied it. Judge N. Randy Smith, however, wrote a dissent based on court cases that have been overturned on other grounds, like the high-tech gays that was decided in the, I believe, the 1990s, which said because sodomy laws are on the books, they can't claim suspect class. So basically, right now, it's still winding through the court system. The Ninth Circuit en banc said we're not going to hear it. I thought that would be the way that it goes. Chief Judge Alex Kozinski is the head guy. He seems to be a pretty decent guy, as he tried to get Karen Galinsky in Galinsky versus OPM the medical benefits that she needed so that she could insure her wife on her with her federal benefits. But he basically said, you know what, we're going to order them to give you the benefits. So with a chief judge like that, and the right-wingers complaining that it is a heavily liberal court, which I think the Fifth or Eighth Circuit that covers Texas is the most, they'd be more at home in that circuit court than any other, especially the Ninth. I'm not surprised that had happened. I was amazed to read the ruling in the Perry versus Hollingsworth case, as it was called at the time, or Perry versus Brown, I think it was at the time. I was really glad to read that ruling, and if you haven't read Judge Vaughn Walker's ruling, you have to. So many people declared it brilliant, and it is, because it's so many findings of fact. I believe that Judge Walker he knew that he had to do this because he had to defend his ruling. And after the ruling was rendered, they tried to vacate the ruling. Judge Ware said no. They said because they pulled so many stops to try and uphold Prop 8, but it would not be upheld whatsoever. So now it goes to the Supreme Court. Whatever they say, since there is no appeal from them, would go. It is my hope that they decline to hear the case. However, they need 4 justices to review the case. I think that more than likely Scalia, Thomas, and Roberts would probably be the 3. And maybe Alito, possibly. That he usually he's one of the 4 that are on the right side of this. It is my hope that should Prop 8, or when a marriage ban, a constitutional marriage ban, hits the Supreme Court, that it will be overturned. Because even though the state constitutions usually give more freedoms than the federal constitution, it's my hope that the federal constitution will in fact say, well, since we give less freedoms, we will, these are unconstitutional, period. So since the state gives more, their marriage bans are also unconstitutional. It could go either way. I'm really hoping that it will be overturned. And even if it's not overturned, 1986, the Warren Burger Court upheld sodomy laws in Georgia. 10 years later, in Powell versus Georgia, that was overturned. So, no matter what, and actually 7 years after Powell versus Georgia, sodomy laws all around were overturned. Even though there are loopholes that many legislators try to push and try to make a technicality out of it, they're overturned. And so will those marriage bans. Those will be overturned, period, down in the story. There's no way that they could stand any rational scrutiny, because when you apply one set to gay couples and another to straight couples, you automatically see the just lopsidedness that if you're going to use a particular line, then you have to look all the way around. And our opponents make it a flat issue, but it's a sphere, and we know this. DOMA is going to be overturned. Prop 8 is going to be overturned, and gay and lesbian citizens, we will have the ability to live on equal footing with everyone else, and that's the way it should be. America, I too am America. Gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, they are America too. So now with this upcoming vote in 2012, Obama 2012 is all I have to say, because the alternative is just too... So this has been VidHead85. I will see you later.